And that has just been a blessing through and through. There's days I don't feel like I deserve it, but I am always thankful for those people who had my corner and are still in it.
I'm Carson, an equine photographer.
And I'm Calyx, a performance horse trainer.
And we're sisters. Welcome to Split Reins, a podcast where we bridge the gap between two very different sides of the equine industry.
This is a place for real talk about the industry we love and the parts that drive us crazy.
Welcome back to Split Reins, everybody. We're so excited to have you for our second episode. So today we're going to be talking about our learning curve, kind of how the early mistakes and our first big wins defined our current standards. So we're just going to kind of talk about, the beginning of everything, what we did in the beginning that maybe we, regretted or learned off of, and then, how we're doing things now and how that kind of shapes our business and everything. So I think we're just going to jump right into it. Kayla, if you want to start us off with talking about like when you first decided that this was like, I'm going to do this, and how you kind of felt at the beginning of starting your business.
Yeah, I think, I think it's a comparable story to everyone else who branches off and tries to do their own thing.
Sure.
I have a hard time kind of defining when I jumped into it. I suppose when I decided to go full-time training and really making that my career, trying to remember how long that was, maybe about 6 years ago. So that put me at 2020, I guess. And now, mind you, in the past, I always had a few horses in and out of the barn, to train, but it wasn't my source of income at the time. I just decided, we talked about this last time. I just decided why work to do your hobby if I could just make my hobby my work, and yeah, of course there was a lot of nerves going into it. I didn't know what to expect. I knew there was going to be learning curves and nothing was going to be perfect and that there were going to be mistakes made along the way, but sometimes, you kind of get in your head and you just anticipate all of those moments, and it really makes you nervous in the beginning, but it quickly went away. I mean, I got into the groove of things and was lucky enough to have some pretty cool clients in the beginning there that really, I think, have shaped me, shaped me, I guess, to be who I am today as far as a trainer. Built my program. Yeah, it really bled into it very, very quietly, I think.
For sure.
It wasn't some big grand jump that I was making.
Right, 'cause I was just about to talk about that because you had the job, you attempted college, you had the job, and you kind of did it between that too, right? Like you were doing it in between, because I remember, you'd have horses at like Freddie Wentz barn, you would have horses, at Sydney's barn, and
Yes.
so like, were you charging them like how much, like what's the difference between charging them when you were like had your job and everything versus like when you decided that you were going to sit down and take the leap to full time? Like was there like a difference in like your business plan? Like what made you, you know what I'm trying to say?
I do. There was a difference. I didn't feel right charging my clients more than what I felt. How do I want to put that? I was making a living elsewhere. I was making a living not by training horses. And so I felt those few horses that I did keep back, every year and train on and have some clients that way. I didn't feel as though it was right for me to charge them, I suppose, what I'm charging now, or, typically
True, yeah.
what everyone else was charging. But I can look back at that now and I can tell myself that that's really, that part really doesn't matter. Now, I don't need to charge my clients to pay for a vacation to Portugal or something like that. I need to make enough to make a living out of this and stay reasonable for my clients.
Yeah.
So looking back at it now, I really didn't, I think I would have done things differently, if I had 2020, hindsight's always 2020. I think I'd have done things differently, but yeah, there definitely was a huge price change difference, and
For
partly
sure.
probably because I just felt like maybe I was underqualified, or maybe because it wasn't my primary source of income, I owed it to someone to stay relatively cheaper, but that comes with its own
Hmm.
battles. The cheaper you are, the cheaper your clients are, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll
Yep.
just leave it at that, but you're not going to have good clients by, you know,
Right.
you're just going
Exactly.
to get everyone else's crap, really,
Exactly.
is what
Yeah.
happens. Now, it helped. I think to an extent you have to in the beginning as you're starting, take whatever you can get,
Yeah.
understand that and understand your own mortality, of course. Don't get something that's, going to try and kill you. But there's something to be said, starting from the bottom like that and taking anything that they can and building a reputation off of it. And then when you get to a point where you feel like you can raise your prices and you can curate your own program to suit what it is that you want out of it, um, I think that's a honorable way.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So, so when you took that leap, because I don't think you and I have actually ever really like talked about like the feeling of it and how maybe that impacted not, like your personal life in a way. When you took that, that leap to quit your job and to do this, because I remember when I heard that you were going to do that, and I don't even think I heard it from you. I think I heard it from mom.
Sure.
And it was kind of like a nervous thing for all of us for you because we obviously didn't want you to, be, living on the street, but because we didn't know how it was going to go.
Oh,
But
for sure. For
but
sure.
how did you feel? Was it like an exciting time for you, or now was it more like, oh God, now I have to like actually figure this out, and I have to pay bills with this?
No, there absolutely was no burden, changing career paths. Like I said in the last podcast, I always knew I was going to do this. And oftentimes, especially that last year at the bank, I kept thinking to myself, you always say that. You really want to do that. Why not just freaking quit?
Yeah.
What's holding you back? It's not like I was making a boatload of money, bringing in from the bank. Um, so it was freeing in a way, and I was excited. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really carry a lot of burdens with it when I first kind of jumped into it. It just felt right. It felt like where I needed to be. I don't know. So,
That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't, my experience was not like that at all.
mm, how was your experience?
Well, so, I don't think I really kind of was like, oh my God, this is what I should be doing. Like, this is me, like photography is what I want to be doing with my life. I genuinely don't think that I legit felt like that until like 2 years ago. And I've been doing
Sure.
this for a while. Um, but no, because when I first like actually started, it was God, July 10th of 2016 actually. I know the date to the T. And I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary. That's cute.
Well,
So,
congratulations.
thank you. So I officially like started my business. We're gonna put in air quotes here. And on July 10th of 2016 is when I started what I called my business, which was CMTH Photography Studio back then. Terrible name. Glad I changed it. Um, but that's what I started as, and I really just did it as a way of having a spot to put pictures that I was taking at all your jumping shows
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was flooding my personal Facebook page with all of these pictures that I was taking, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that because I know down the line I'm going to want to be able to easily find memories, and
Yeah.
Facebook holds all those memories. And so I officially started like my business again in air quotes, by just creating a Facebook page, just to have all of my photos at. And I literally remember saying, like, on my Facebook page when I said that, hey, all my pictures are going here. This is just a spot to put them.
Right.
And so that's kind of what it just started out as. I was just kind of just doing it for fun. And I Instagram was a big thing back then, and so I started on Instagram, and I was starting to see all these, all these beautiful pictures, and I was like, well, I'm gonna start, posting on Instagram too. So I got a different Instagram for my photography studio too. And then I don't know what clicked, but then it was like now people are asking me to take senior pictures. And I, mind you, in 2016 was 16, 17 years old. So I was
Right.
young.
Yeah.
And I just, everybody, it was just like friends, I was taking senior pictures of friends and everything. And it never really clicked to me that this was going to be a big business until I kind of started to do it a little bit more and got a little bit more serious into it because I, graduated from high school, went into college, and I was like, well, I'm going to get a degree in computer networking. So why
Yeah.
do I, this is just something that I do for fun, and I'm going to make computer networking my job, and I'm going to take after dad, and I'm going to go, I'm going to become a big CIO of a company at some point, and I'm going to make all this money and sit at a desk for the rest of my life and work on computers. And that's kind of where I was. So it didn't necessarily like at the beginning feel like anything big to me. Um but when I'll kind of, my story kind of melds together because it all kind of depends on like my timeline. But when I first started charging, I mean, again, I was just doing it for fun, so I didn't really feel like an imposter at that point. There really wasn't any nervousness to it. I just decided that, hey, I could just make some pocket money off of this
Right.
because I think I'm good. Looking back at my pictures from 2016, that's a different story now. But at that point, I was like, I'm good. I'll just make some pocket change. And so I didn't really feel like I was competing in an industry.
Yeah.
And I was getting all these sessions because I was charging $20 a session. And I'd be out there taking pictures for 2 hours for $20. You couldn't catch me dead doing that now. Um,
Right.
so the gap between then and like feeling like professional, I haven't felt like a professional until like maybe 2 3 years ago is when I've actually been like, oh my gosh, I'm legit, I'm a professional, like my name's known and all this stuff. But
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, so crazy start for both of us. You were just like, you know what, I know I was gonna do it, I'm just gonna jump right in. And me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, I get that. To an extent, maybe there was some of that with me too. I never doubted that it wasn't going to work out. Um, really, the only thing I could see happening if it didn't work out is me getting hurt, I guess, enough to a point where I couldn't train, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I just never thought that there was a possibility it could fail. And maybe that was important in the beginning there, to have that kind of confidence going on. I wasn't naive to the fact that it could fail, but really the only way you can truly tragically fail at that is just being an awful person.
Yeah.
If you can't, being an awful person to your clients, not upholding your word, not at least trying. I knew I was a good enough rider that if I just put in 110% every day to every customer, it was going to work out. So I did it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just thinking back to like those years, and you were so good at like finding people for you, but I think that you were detrimental in me starting because you were asking me to do all like those pictures for like Lori's horses when she was selling them and doing the jumping, and you guys allowing me to just tag along and take pictures. I think that that really like helped me get a client base going at the start. And I don't work with,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it gave you content right away.
yeah. And so I mean, I haven't worked with any of those people for a while, but that really that really started, and I think I learned a lot in those early years just because of, you were consistently having me out to take all these pictures. And whenever a client of yours would need sale pictures, I mean, it was like, well, why not have Carson come out and do it?
Yeah.
Um, and so that was awesome. And I think that really helped me get my name out. Do you remember when I would put watermarks on my images and they were the biggest watermarks in the corner?
I
Like,
do,
oh my
yes.
gosh.
Yes, I do. But to be fair, back in the, back then, a lot of photographers were doing it that way with an awful big watermark, and some still do today. Um,
I
but
just,
yeah, I do remember your original watermark.
oh gosh, that thing was that was crazy. Talk about an eyesore.
It really, I mean, it was kind of cool. You drew it up yourself. It was kind of cool. I liked it.
Oh well, the logo I have now I drew up myself too. So
Hmm.
yeah, keeping that in the theme. But I don't know, did my like photography, like doing all of like the sale pictures and stuff, do you think that helped you at all? Having that ability to like showcase your work a bit?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, it did. Um, it only ever benefited me. If I had to, I certainly wasn't experienced behind a camera. I'm pretty inept that way. So in a way, you saved me a lot of time from having to try and do it myself. It was sort of like a delegation moment. I just had so much going on. I could have found time, of course, you always can, but it would have been a lot to juggle. There's already a lot of, stuff to juggle. So in that way, you kind of helped me delegate some of that work that I had to do. And just the fact that you were able to give me content to kind of advertise my business. Now, I'm not super great at content. I'm very poor on social media. I should be better at updating my page on social media, but it was enough that you want to be able to have the public kind of see what it is that you can provide before they've got too many, irons in the fire, before they've paid for 90 days, before they've dropped their horse off, before they've talked to me. We all do it. I stalk people's businesses all the time. So in that way, it kind of helped me provide content and be able to reach the public a little bit more. So,
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of went over like the start, and our leap into like that and all that stuff. When was the like I made it moment for you?
hmm. Well, I suppose there were a couple different times where I thought to myself, this is it. I'm on my way. I think the first year I showed at the Iowa Quarter Horse Ranch Futurity
Mm-hmm.
and did awful well with Josie. Uh, that was probably one of those moments. But again, I always kind of thought I had already made it. I didn't put too much weight on it, and there wasn't too many times, I guess there was a lot of reassurance, maybe is a better word, as my business grew and the time went on. Every time I kind of was able to get something done and have these successes, it gave me the reassurance that I was still on the right path, that I must be doing something right. So I guess to answer your question, there might not have been all too much of an I made it moment, but definitely moments where I could sit back and actually see what it is that I'm doing and that I was doing. I was serving something to the public that they appreciated. Um, yeah. So,
For sure. What are your like favorite is since you've started, I'm just gonna kind of flip switches because I'm just generally curious. Since you started, what are like your favorite moments? Like what are the moments that stick out most to you?
like just as part of my routine or
But anything, like I would say maybe for you was last year with Petunia, and the fraternity.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I mean, it's always fun to win, right? That's why we do it. And not that, I don't mean that to sound so shallow, but
right,
you have to be competitive. Um, that's just a no-brainer.
right.
So,
I guess I'm
yeah, of
asking,
course.
like, what moments to you do you remember the most that were like the moments where you're like, wow, this is amazing. What I'm doing is great. I'm really not doing well, kind of trying to
No,
explain this to you, but because
no,
I've
I
I've
think
got a
that,
few moments there where I was like, holy crap.
yeah, I think that is found in a lot of my successes, I suppose. Certainly last year with Petunia was a moment like that. I was very pleased, very happy. I'm my own worst critic, so of course, as I'm sitting back and, appreciating everything, I'm also kind of beating myself up for things that I could have done different, whatnot. I think we all do that. But again, honestly, I waking up in the morning and having a thermos full of coffee and just being out there with the horses. It was one of those things that every morning I was appreciative of it
For
and
sure.
still am.
Yeah.
So,
Huh.
in that way, every morning is one of those moments.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, I think so. Helps to have a positive mindset anyway.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
What about you? I mean, what were your moments? You kind of had mentioned you had some.
I do. I have a few. So I don't I guess, my I made it moment um was there was a few. So I think of things a bit differently because I kind of have two eras of my photography.
Sure.
I have the 10R era, or maybe not even the 10R era, but maybe I have like the 2020 on era of my photography, and then I have like the 2020 below era because things changed so much in the 2019 to 2020 years for me, and I just I think like I have a few big moments that stick out to me, and one of them was, I took all these pictures at these jumping shows for you, and yeah, and just of everybody at the shows, like we went to the the big show in Mason City, and we went to the Grand Prix, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna take pictures of this just because I love to take pictures.
Yeah.
And I remember going back, this is when like had first started college, like just started college. And I remember going back to my dorm and I got a message from a writer who I've never met before. And she's like, "Hey, you took a picture of me jumping. Can I buy it from you?"
Oh, I remember that.
And I was like, I've never sold any of these. Like I'm just doing this for fun to like share on Facebook for people to have. And I was like, "Oh, wow. Like that's crazy that, you were able to find this and now you want to buy the picture from me." So that was like a whole learning experience for me, like figuring out how to handle the prints and stuff because I'd never done it before.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's for sure like one of them of like my early eras. Of course, every year while I was doing photography and I was, still in 4-H, I take my pictures to the fair. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I never once got anything below a purple ribbon.
Oh, really?
Once I like started like really like learning everything and learning techniques and things, I don't think I got anything less than a purple ribbon from 2016 on.
Well,
And I remember because there's a photographer in our town that they would judge the 4-H shows, and I remember every year that they would remember me and they were like, "We're so excited to see your pictures all the time," because it was a pair, like they weren't a
oh, how
couple,
cool is
but they
that?
they worked together, and they would
Right.
judge. And like every year that I would go back, they would be like, "Oh, I'm so excited you're here," and I would always try to get them, and they would they helped me a lot because they knew that this is what I wanted to do, or at least I was like good at it. Um, so a lot of those moments were big for me, where I'm like, wow, maybe I am doing something right. People are
Yeah.
enjoying these pictures.
Yeah.
These people who, book weddings and all this stuff are telling me that I'm so good and that I'm amazing and all this stuff. And so that was pretty big for me. And then
Yeah.
I did a lot of like photo competitions back then. I entered a photo in, I can't remember what uh competition it was, but it was something for Iowa for like the state. And I entered in a
Okay.
picture that I had taken at a rodeo of actually one of our friends from 4-H, her horse, because it was raining, and I took a picture of it and I made it black and white, and it was really cool because you could see the rain and everything. And I called it Waiting Patiently, and I sent it in to this competition, and I ended up winning, I think like reserve champion in my
Yeah.
thing, and I just remember that being so in my category, and I just remember that being like so awesome
Oh, for sure.
that that happened. And of course, then I entered in it the year after, and I didn't get anything. But that's just how things go.
Right. Right. But
uh,
that builds your confidence, stuff like that.
yeah. So that was like another one of my moments. So I have a lot of like good moments from like my early eras where I was like, okay, this is cool. Like this is, becoming something a little bit more, but I had always been like more focused on continuing my education into IT. Um, and the last moment that I can remember of like my early era, that's what we're gonna call it, the early years. Um, my last 4-H, my last 4-H state fair. It was last year's 2018. I'd already graduated college or high school. I went there and I submitted the picture of your dog Grub as a puppy
Oh yeah.
into the state fair. Well, I submitted it at 4-H and then it got sent to state fair. And then I was a part of the like selected for the Professional Photographers of Iowa gallery, and it was that picture.
Yeah.
And there was only like a handful of people who got into that, and I got a medal for it, and I was like up on this, it was presented on this, board in the thing, and I just remember I didn't even know that that was a thing that they did. And I just remember walking in there because, mom wanted to see what my pictures did. And I didn't even think about it. Like, I was like, yeah, whatever. Mom's like, no, we should go look. Because I knew that it had gotten to State Fair, but I had pictures go to State Fair every year. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I got in there, and then all of a sudden we saw that, and mom's like, holy crap, Carson, you're in this. And I'm like, oh, wow, I am. And then now I have this medal that I can like put up in my office. And so it's a cool like thing of like, remember where you started because, I did all these cool things, and so that was another big moment for me, and that kind of like put that into the bank of my brain, and I brought
Yeah.
that with
Yeah.
me. So those were some cool
Yeah. It would
moments.
have to.
Yeah. But then, I got out of college, and I think the big moments for me now happened in later eras was definitely my first horse show that I did, that I shot. That was a big one because that showed me that there's money in this and good money in this.
Right.
Not to think of everything in like monetization, but camera equipment is so expensive.
It is.
And it's incredibly, time consuming, and I have to have all this software and stuff to do it, and so you kind of have to think about the back end of it too.
Yeah.
So I just remembered shooting my first horse show and then realizing that there's money in this and being like, holy crap, you know. And then so that's when I started like the horse show stuff. And then it was last year I got an email from some students at Iowa State University, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing, we have like this course in equine business, and we chose equine photography as, like something that we wanted to research. So would you want to
Yeah.
come talk to us about it?" And I was like, yes. And so we met in Story City at a coffee shop, and we just like talked about everything. And that was the biggest time that I realized I know what I'm doing, and I can like teach others and I can like talk about it and I can be smart about it. And so that was a big like eye opener for me because the entire time from when I graduated college on, I was just sitting here thinking like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough to be here. Um why am I even like doing this kind of stuff? Like I don't understand this. Like and then I finally got to talk to these students and they were asking me all these questions and I knew the answers right off the bat. And I'm like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
anyways, I guess I do know what I'm doing. I guess I am smart enough to be doing this. I guess I do belong here." And it was just crazy to think because I was like, I don't think anyone's like finding me organically. Like, I think that it's just all through word of mouth. And that's not true because a lot of people find me organically. My business might not be at the front page of Google, but people are
Right.
still finding me. And
Exactly.
so that was definitely not to make this like a super long like thing, but those were my moments and those were the big things.
Yeah,
So so that was really cool for me.
absolutely. It would have to be.
Yeah.
Would have to be.
But on the flip side of that, what did you have any moments where you were like, I don't think no I knowing based off of what you have told me so far, I don't think that this is going to be a yes answer for you. I think this is going to be a no answer for you. Did you have you ever had a moment where you're like, I'm done. I want to quit. Um this isn't working out.
I have had moments where I've definitely been fed up. Um, I don't know. I mean, I've never seriously considered quitting and going on, but on the days that are really tough and you're just, shoot, nothing's going right, and I'm guilty for saying in my head, is this worth it? And I always come out of it, and I'm quickly realized that yes, it is worth it. But no, I don't think there's ever been a time where I've actually considered just stop training. Um, just I don't know. I guess I haven't.
Hmm.
Have
Yeah,
you?
see, well, yeah, I have, and I can talk about that now, I guess, but I don't know if you remember this, but when I was in college, um, I think it was like the end of 2019 when like COVID started happening,
Yeah.
and I was just so extremely stressed out about life and everything because I graduated early 2020 when
Yeah.
COVID was like big. So I was like really stressed out about like how my future was. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I actually did stop. Like I put a post out on Facebook that said I'm done. Do you
I
remember
don't know if
that?
I remember that. I don't know if I do.
Well, again, I'm good with my dates. So this is March 3rd of 2020. I when I was in college, I did not have the best support system. I was away from home, so I didn't have like you and dad and mom and everybody and all
Sure.
my normal friends. And
Yeah.
so I unfortunately clinged to my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the best support system. And he then, that was mostly because, not to say that he was a bad person or anything, he just didn't understand.
Right.
And he really, didn't help me realize that this is something that I wanted to do, which is why meeting Harry, who's who's my husband, um, was such a big detrimental thing for me in my business because he's really the one who told me, no, you need to be doing this, like you're good with it, and let me know what I
Yeah.
need to do to help you. But I just remember being in college and I had this dude that I was dating and who I was clinging to, who I was like going to for everything because I didn't have anybody because I was far away from home. And I was like, well, what do you think I should do? And he's like, well, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't help. So I just remember sitting in my dorm. I vividly remember this. I remember sitting in my dorm and just feeling very defeated because we were coming into spring break and the college was like, don't plan on coming back because we're shutting down because of COVID. It was a very scary time. And I
Yeah.
was like, if colleges are having to shut down, and you remember Niska, who's like the
Oh
associate
yeah.
that we used to show with, they decided not to do shows this year. Or
Yeah.
that they ended, like they're not showing anymore. in 2020 because of COVID. And so I was like, I
Right.
just witnessed the death of a saddle club that I had shown in since I was 4. Like,
Yeah.
what is this going to do? Like this I am my entire business is based off of the horse industry. Like how this isn't going to be good. So I just decided, you know what, I'm done. And
Hmm.
um I made that post and it literally just said, I'm not going to take any more clients. Like I'm still going to take pictures cuz it's fun for me, but I'm just going to focus on IT. And so I did.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember that.
Well, it didn't last long, but
Obviously.
but yeah, it was a good few months. But that was probably my biggest I'm done moment. Like obviously the equine photography industry is a very tough industry and there's a lot of points where I'm like, all right, this isn't even, you know, it,
So, like, what would be your biggest takeaway then? I suppose, since after you had told the public you were going to quit and then decided to jump back in. I mean, how did that change your perspective when you jumped back in? Was there
oh, for
something?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a I think that was the biggest push that I needed where I realized no, like this is what I want to do because I told you like I had never really thought that this was going to be a thing that I you know, was gonna
Yeah.
do. I thought I was just gonna be, in IT and everything for the
Right.
rest of my life. Like at that point, it was kind of like a come to Jesus moment in a way,
Sure.
where I was like, holy crap, no, like I'm not going to keep my camera in a camera bag. I'm not gonna not, go out and take pictures for people. Like, and I think the biggest thing was is I still had people messaging me for sessions and I was like, well, if I don't want to tell them no, then why did I shut down? Kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And I think when I came home, I took down the post in June of 2020. So it really was only like a couple months.
Sure.
But I had graduated college. I was back with my correct support system. I had these people who were like, you can do anything. Like you were, because mom and dad are so good at like saying, you put your mind to it, you're gonna do it. And so I was like back with these people and I was like with all my friends and everybody wanted pictures because it was like 2020 and nobody had anything to do.
Yeah.
And that's when I
Yeah.
realized that COVID is scary, yes, but the horse industry is strong and there's still plenty of people who are going to want this. And there are still shows going on because that's when I started showing at the organization that I show with now that I'm on the board for. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Screw it. So it definitely like opened my eyes a bit and was like, no, this is something that's legit. Like the industry is strong. Horse people are insane and will always want pictures. Um, so why close down? Like we're gonna go back to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that. That's completely understandable.
yeah.
Um, so then, how did you view your struggles then after? And did that change things? I mean, what did you have to change then when you went back? Did you feel like you needed to, or
Well, I'm trying to think. I honestly don't think that my mindset changed too much until I met Harry. I'm gonna
yeah,
be real
yeah,
honest with you here. Um, my mindset didn't like the mindset I have now. Let's put it into perspective. Like the moments where I get, to the point where I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not even good enough. I have to sit down, I have to think about it, and I'm like, no, you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't good enough. Like, you
right,
would not have the client base if you were not good enough. I have to
right,
continually look through the pictures that I've taken, especially if it's been a while. Obviously, right now it's my busy season. But if it's been a while, like this winter was terrible for me. I had to go back and I had to look at everything that I've done and all the people who love my pictures and I go through testimonials and stuff and sit here and think, oh God, no, you are exactly where you need to be. So
Yeah.
that's how my mindset is now. Like whenever I get like that, I have to remind myself like, no, you're good. People know you. You're well known. You're meant to be here. You do good work. And I just, have to continually play that in my brain.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
when I first started back, there was times where I was like I was still getting sessions, but it wasn't like a ton. And
Right.
I definitely still wasn't charging what I should have been charging. But again, I thought that I was going into IT, so I had a job. Um So, at that point I was just thinking, well, maybe this is just kind of going to be a hobby thing still. Um,
Sure.
and so my mindset back then was like, well, you're not ever going to be like this big photographer. You're not ever going to be
Mm.
at the top of the list in Iowa. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I met Harry, and Harry was really the one who gave me the push to like start doing this because he's like, Carson, you
Yes.
love to do this, so do it. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh,
right.
you're so right.
Having the right people in our corner uh, is so important, for our success and our growth. So yeah, I'm really glad you had found Harry. He really did a lot for you that way,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. How did
But
knowing you and your struggles, how did not having maybe the right support system affect you at all?
um, I don't think I ever had a bad support system. Um, my clients were great. Obviously my parents were great.
Hmm.
They were nervous, but just as excited as I was to see this come to fruition. Um, and I don't mean to constantly, counteract all your questions, but I think I had a great support system.
Okay. Well,
Now,
that's good.
I had maybe relationships or a relationship that it just didn't fit. It just didn't fit. And in a way, that did not impact my mentality, I suppose, hardly at all. And maybe it should have, if I can look back, but I think I had a great support system.
That's good. Yeah. You definitely had a lot of people in your corner. I mean, there's a lot of people even now who are just out there screaming, screaming, cheering, crying for you
Yes.
and your business.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And that has just been a blessing through and through. There's days I don't feel like I deserve it, but I am always thankful for those people who had my corner and are still in it. So,
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, I'm honestly, I'm happy that you can counteract all my questions because I would rather you be able to than to not. So that really just kind of shows how I'm not going to say invested, but just how well that fits for you and how well your lifestyle works out and stuff. So it's honestly really
yeah.
good. Really good. We can kind of talk about since we're kind of when since this podcast is supposed to be like a both sides of the equine industry kind of a thing. We can kind of talk about like maybe some struggles that we both deal with just in like our day-to-day thing, like maybe just boundary issues, the learning tax, I guess, where like the expensive mistakes that we've maybe done, just so we can kind of get that comparison a bit because you and I have been very different so far in this
Right.
in this
Yeah.
in this episode. How did you set boundaries with your clients?
Well, I suppose I just tried to make it as black and white as possible. And still remain someone who can go above and beyond for their clients, but without sacrificing parts of their program for, one person or however that might look. I suppose some ways setting boundaries, how do I want to put this? I'm not going to, unless it's an emergency, I'm not going to, if I get a text message at 11 o'clock at night asking a question about my program, whether it's pricing or details or, a horse for sale, whatever, it's one of those things that I'll just leave for the morning. respect it. Just because I get a text late at night doesn't mean that I feel like my clients are disrespecting my time. Um, but having some clients who always think I should be available is frustrating, and just being upfront and honest in the beginning is the key to that. Um, you need to be able to clearly lay out your expectations. You need to ask your client about their expectations, um, and really make sure above and beyond all things that the two of you are on the same level. And once you can kind of get all that cleared away, that helps. I think it's helped me, I suppose, in the way of having clients that become super needy. Now, of course, you can't. You're always going to get the oddball that's frustrating to work with. Is maybe you just grit your teeth and stick it out because you have to. Um, but I guess I haven't really thought about that. I should. I don't know if anything comes to mind right now as far as like what boundaries I've set so far, but
That's all right. That's okay. Did you as you've grown, have you ever had somebody reach out to you like a friend, or family or whoever, who kind of like expected you to do some work for free? I'm not trying to point names, but maybe your sister might have been one of them.
um yes and no. I suppose I've had some friends that expected that in some sort of way. But at the end of the day, it was always I had to remind myself that if you accept it, you've got to stick it out now. I mean, you either tell that friend or family, "Hey, I'm sorry, but this is just how it's going to be," or you say, "Yeah, you know what? I'll help you out. I'll kind of stretch myself to make this work better for you because we're friends." Um, I don't know. It can be hard on relationships. It can
Mhm.
be hard on friend relationships and even family. But that goes back to the making sure everyone understands everything. You
Right.
know, being black and white, being clear with everyone's expectations, what theirs are, what yours are, what you believe you can get done in a certain amount of time, where you think that, this horse is at mentally, physically, however that may look, helps in those situations. But I'm never going to turn down helping a friend. I'm never going to turn down helping a family or one of my family. But I suppose when it gets to the point where I feel like I've just been walked all over, I've never had a problem just opening up to that and telling him that. And I
Yeah.
think that just, you just in ways have to be blunt and honest.
Yeah. Do you remember fairly recently when you and I kind of got into a little frustrated argument? Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
When you were working with Poppy, or no, I had been taking pictures, and then I think I was gearing up for like the world show that I went to or something like that. And I was like, "Hey, could you just like ride my horse?" And you're like, "Well, you kind of got to pay me for that." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I've been doing this for you for free forever." So then you and I kind of got into a little kerfuffle. I don't know if you remember this or not.
I guess I don't remember it maybe as clearly as you do. Yeah, but that's kind of something that no matter if they are friends or family, everyone's always kind of been able to put forth their own effort somehow, whether that
Right.
looked financially, whether that looked, doing you a favor in place of it. But yeah, I
Well,
definitely do remember having your mare. And I was going to mention, just a little while ago that there's plenty of things that I ask you to do or, ask you to do for me that I don't pay you for.
right.
Um, and I
But
feel like I should.
so
But
I think
yeah, I mean, I can see where that
I think what we
I don't
were
remember the entire situation with you and Poppy, to be
no,
honest.
I think it's more of like I think, I think what actually was going on was um I was asking you for this because I was taking pictures of your client horses
Yep.
and I wasn't getting paid to take pictures for your client horses because this is when you and I decided that we were going to add into both of our contracts that if sale pictures were going to be taken, that the client would have to pay me. Do you remember this?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Because you and I had a lot of gray area between like me taking, these sale pictures for free and not charging you for it because I'm doing it for you, versus
Right.
then you selling the client horse and getting money because I took these pictures and that probably helped sell them. So I think that we kind of just got a little frustrated with each other because I don't think we ever like laid those groundwork between the two of us.
No, and we didn't. And, I can look back on it now and see why that would have been really upsetting for you. And I don't know why I did it the way that I did it.
Well,
I
and I
can't,
wasn't.
it's been so long ago.
I know. And I wasn't like mad about it or anything. I was just got a little frustrated when I was like, "Hey, could you just like hop on my horse for," because that was when, she was at mom and dad's and you were training out of mom and dad's and I was like, "Can you
Yeah.
just like hop on my horse for like 30 minutes a day?" And I think you were actually using her for lessons too, and I wasn't
Yes.
getting paid for that either. And so there's like I just remember you and I had like a 40-minute phone call about like what our expectations were and what we wanted to do, and I just remember it starting very heated and then it finally got very, because you, like you said, you're very blunt, you're very to the fact, and I was trying to not step on any eggshells.
Right. Right.
And so we were just clashing. I just remember that. That's just so funny. We're, for those listening, we're good now. We have a system. But I just remember that being like so, because it was,
Oh,
because we're family, we're sisters. It was such a gray
well,
area there on what we offer each other. And yes, to your point, I still do things for you for free that yes, I should technically be charging you for, but I don't care because I love you and I'm going to do it. But yeah.
you must have a better memory than I, because I don't remember us bickering all too much, but I'm sure it happened.
It wasn't a huge bicker. I think it was just I think it was just a misunderstanding. And we just
Agree?
didn't have any expectations between the two of us. So,
Right.
because we were
Right.
both viewing, I was, my business was serving your business, and business is separate from personal in a lot of aspects. And I kind of get into this too with, like friends, if we're going to talk about boundaries. A lot of people are always like, the people who I know good, like my best friends, and my family are always like, what about the friends and family discount? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
and
You've got to be able to draw the line somewhere,
yeah,
I
and
suppose, at the end of the day.
to your point, I agree with you that yes, if I will, stretch myself to make it work for a friend. You know what I mean? And or family, definitely. I do it more with family than I do with friends, just because family's
Sure.
family.
Yeah, of
But
course.
um I just, now that I'm a little bit more into like a business aspect of things, maybe I tell family that they don't have to pay me right away, versus
Right.
usually I require payment. I either, I do a deposit and I require payment upfront before I start sessions.
Right.
um maybe I don't do that, maybe I don't give a crap. um but because I took our cousin's senior pictures last
Yep.
year, and I told our aunt, I was like, don't worry about it too much, because this is for our cousin, this is her graduation, I'm doing this for her. And of course then she Venmos me more than she needed to freaking Venmo me, but that's fine. But the biggest thing for me is like sessions, like private sessions, are different than my horse show photography. Private sessions for family, if they want 2 or 3 pictures, I'll just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to spend 4 hours out in the heat taking your senior pictures, that's a different story. But
Well, for
like,
sure.
if I'm going up, if mom just wants some pictures of her dad, I'll just do it. If our grandma wants pictures of her and her horse, I will do it. If,
Right.
our aunt wants pictures of her family, whatever, I will do it. But um my horse show, because I actually had to have this conversation with a few people in our family, that horse show photography for me is different because I have so many upfront expenses,
Yeah.
and unfortunately you have to pay for those pictures.
You do. Yes, you do.
And so I just remember, like talking about that and talking to some people, and they're like, "Well, I just kind of want this picture." And I'm like, "Great. Well, here's how you buy it." And they're like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Yeah, like sorry. I've spent $1,200 just shooting the show and I haven't made a dime yet. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I'm not doing the service for you. I'm doing the service for the horse show, like for the show,
Right.
for the person putting the show on. Like that's why I'm here. I'm a luxury service for you as an exhibitor.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
pay for it if you want it. So sorry." So that was a fun conversation that I've had to have for a few people. But to that point, one of my friends, has pictures of in from multiple shows, and she wanted to put them all in one order one year, and I was like, that's fine. I'll do that for you, But
Right.
because I don't
Right.
usually do that because that's a lot of work for me to do. But I was like, yeah, whatever.
Well, right. Right.
Okay, so we're kind of like coming up on our time limits here. It's a busy season for both of us. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of end it on that note, and we'll pick up the conversation next time. We'll probably get into more of like what our business strategy is now versus what it was back then, and how we kind of developed it the way that it was. And then maybe we'll get talking about some different topics. But of course, we can both of us can yap for hours. So.
That is the truth.
That is the truth. So, we appreciate you all listening. We are so excited to be doing this, and we'll see you for episode 3.
All right. Thank you.